The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 822.
Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have another amazing Asian Women Who Boss Up co-author. And this woman was actually on my podcast before, and she's like one of the loveliest ladies you will ever meet. She's a certified financial planner and also the founder of Blue Ocean Global Wealth. And I'm really excited to have her on and share her story with us today about the book and her excitement for the book. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Marguerita Cheng. Marguerita, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
I'm Marguerita Cheng. I'm a certified financial planner, or CFP Pro. That's my title. I'm not really a titles person, so I think it's more important to focus on what I do for the people I serve. And I help my clients gain clarity, confidence, and control over their financial lives.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And Marguerita, what's your cultural background?
So my dad was born in China and came to the U.S. by way of Taiwan and Guam. My mom is of Irish and Eastern European heritage. So that makes me multiracial and multicultural.
Thanks for sharing that. And how does the model minority myth hurt Asian women as a whole?
I think the model minority really puts Asian women in a difficult position. I mean, when I say that, it makes it seem like I'm acting like a victim or saying that Asian women are victims, but in some ways it pits Asian women against other minorities, and oftentimes they are invisible.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think it's how we're brought up too, right? Just being told never to make any noise, just stay in your lane, don't go out of your shell, because anything we do out of that becomes shameful. But if we never speak up, we're always going to be invisible. And so we really have to go out there and just have the courage to speak our truth, even if it's scary, even if we get nervous, but it's worth it because there's future generations that will look up to us and realize, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. And why is creating a stronger representation of Asian women so important for you?
Well, for me personally, you know how we said that, it's not only are people invisible, but they are silent, and that's not good for anyone. We're not going away. So the reason why I think it's very important is when I think about growing up, I didn't really see anybody who looked like me. Now, some people say, well, Marguerita, I don't really know anybody who's quarter Irish, quarter European, and half Chinese who's 6 feet tall. And I'm like, I'm actually not 6 feet tall. I'm 5'8", but thank you. I think it's really important because people cannot be what they cannot see. I think it's important. And I know in some ways we are carrying the weight of a world on our shoulders, but it's important to put some positivity out there and be a good role model. Some people may say, well, you know what? I didn't see anybody look like me. And that's true. But if we are going to really change the narrative, then we need to do something about it and be proactive and just share our stories to help others in their journey.
Thanks for sharing that. And I know a lot of people think like their story doesn't matter because they don't have, we play the compare game, right? Like, oh, my story is not like theirs, but it's okay if it's not the same because, you might be able to help one person who can relate to your story and realize like, oh, she's going through what I'm going through. And if she can get through it, then I can get through it. And so no matter how big or small your story may be, or how big or small you think it may be, it can still help someone out there. And that's why it's so important to create that stronger representation to showcase, we're not just one faceted type of people. We're multifaceted. There's different Asian cultures, different Asian women, different careers. And, the more we can showcase that, the more people can realize and society can open their eyes and realize we're not just quiet, submissive, and obedient. And how does it feel being that representation for so many Asian women in the world?
Well, sure. We'll go back to like what you said, and it's so true. In some ways, we were raised not to draw a lot of attention to ourselves, right? Many of us, whether we were born here or came here as children, we have strong familiar ties. So we are oftentimes living in an individualistic society with collectivist community, right? And there can be a conflict. I like what you said about representation. I think first it starts with diversity and inclusion, but then there's equity and representation. And it's so important that we engage in these conversations and are intentional and inclusive, because everybody deserves the chance to share their story. They may not feel comfortable sharing their story, but at least give them the opportunity to decide whether they want to share their story. I mean, I really like what you said. Growing up, like I said, I didn't really see anybody look like me. That wasn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, sometimes it's positive, because I didn't see anybody who looked like me. I mean, we think about it. My dad was Asian, my mom was white. That was very rare in the 60s, right? When my parents were first dating. In fact, their marriage would have been illegal in certain states. Having said that, I know, because I am different, that it would not be healthy for me to compare myself to others, because my story was different. And I think once I, recognized and embraced the fact that I was different, it was transformational.
Awesome. And I love how you mentioned, being different helped you become, who you are. And it was transformational, because a lot of us, we see, being different as a bad thing, right? Like we just want to be like everybody else. But what does that even mean, right? Who decided what normal was, or who set that standard? And so sometimes we just got to go out there and be our true selves, be authentic, because that's when we can attract, the things that we want in our life, the right people into our life, the opportunities that we want. And it really has to start with working on ourselves, right? To fill that cup up so we can serve others. And can you share one reason as to why every Asian woman needs to read this book?
I think every Asian woman needs to read this book, because even though her stories may be different from ours, perhaps collectively we can inspire her to boss up in her own way.
Yeah. And, I believe sharing stories can really help other people, propel their own journey, take that action step, because having that relatability factor is a huge thing, right? Or just even feeling not alone in what they're going through. This is why I love talking about things like mental health and self-care, because those are usually things that nobody talks about or is a taboo. And because we don't talk about it, people feel like they're the only ones going through what they're going through, especially in the time that we're in, right? The pandemic, we're all stuck at home. Our mental issues have heightened. And so we really need to bring these topics up so we can normalize it and realize it's okay. And we can save lives in the process as well. And so I'm really glad you were able to share how stories can really inspire people. And Margarita, what can readers gain from reading your story?
I think the most important thing, it's so interesting when I think about my story, I don't know that my story is that great, but if my story inspires someone to feel a little bit more confident, feel a little bit more resilient, then I feel like it served its purpose, right? So I hope that people, first and foremost, don't feel that they're alone, right? I want them to feel that they are supported, valued, and celebrated. To me, I hope that's what they gain from my story and reading all the stories of the ladies from Asian women who bossed up.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's so true, right? I always say if I can help one person, then my job is done, because you never know how far that person can go, right? I always say, what if the next person you help was like the next Oprah or the next, I don't know, Michael Jordan? Like, can you imagine how much impact they have created because of your help? And so this is why, like, sometimes you're just one person away from, an opportunity of a lifetime, and you just have to keep pushing forward, keep moving, even when times are tough, to get to where you are. And by sharing these stories, it can really help you get there, right? Even give you the mindset tools, because mindset is huge, right? Without creating a strong mindset, we're not going to go out there and take action. We're not going to go there and keep picking ourselves back up when we fall down, right? And that's going to happen a lot of times, because that's just life. It's a roller coaster. It's not linear. It's sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down, and we just have to learn to push forward no matter what happens. And can you share one boss up tip for our listeners today?
Sure. So this is actually related to my career. So I studied finance and East Asian language and literature, and I am very sensitive and soulful. What I mean is, like, yes, I'm good at numbers and math, but I'm also very intuitive. Like, I am a very attentive listener. I really pay attention to what people are telling me. And my boss up tip is, I was kind of led to believe in certain cultures that being quiet meant that I was being submissive or that I lacked confidence. Come to find out, those are actually very important qualities that people really value. So my boss up tip is what one person may perceive to be a weakness or liability. That is the view of one person. It actually could be your superpower. So that's my boss up tip. We all have superpowers.
I love that boss up tip, and it's so true, right? I mean, sometimes we end up, thinking if one person says something to us that's negative, we feel like that's the absolute truth. But we have to realize that's just a person's opinion and it's not real. And we can change that at anytime we decide to, right? And sometimes our greatest strengths can come from our weaknesses, and you never know what it can bring us, right? Or, whatever mistakes you make can also be your greatest opportunities. And just learning to be imperfect, taking imperfect action, that's what builds us the courage, the confidence to go out there, to be who we want to be that powerful Asian woman or that Asian woman who bosses up. So I really love that tip that you mentioned. And Marguerita, if our listeners wanted to get a copy of the book, is there any links that they can pre-order? And if you have any social media links that you want to share or any other links, feel free to share them with our audience today.
Sure. So for those of you who are so excited to read, you can go to Amazon.com and get the e-version. But if you love to hold a book, and we sure hope you do too, is you can find a copy on my website. That's margueritacheng.com. And Margarita, you pronounce it like the drink, but it's spelled a little bit differently. So Margueritacheng all together. You can find me on LinkedIn, Marguerita Cheng, I just spelled my name, or Twitter, and my handle is at Blue Ocean GW.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. To our listeners, if you want to connect with Marguerita, you can also head on over to the taoselfconfidence.com and search for Marguerita's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I really just want to thank Marguerita today for taking the time to share her wisdom and her story and her excitement for this book. And I'm just so grateful that she's a part of this. So thank you so much, Marguerita.
Thank you so much for having me.
Not a problem. And before I leave, I just want to give a shout out to the Dreams to Plans podcast, which is all about helping small creative business owners taking their big scary dreams and turning them into an action plan for future business success. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's more than one way to get the job done. We're all about offering different perspectives so you can pick the path that works for you. So check out the Dreams to Plans podcast and tune in for another new episode of another amazing Asian Women Who Boss Up co-author who's going to also share her wisdom and tips to help you boss up in your own life. So tune into the next episode and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.